Hello! Wow. What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and this is my 31 days of horror movie reviews. And I was made aware, maybe a couple weeks ago, that a new VHS film was put out, this time by Shudder, and it's called VHS 94, 2021 film. And I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the VHS movies. I think I liked the first one fine, but the second one and more so the third one, I remember not liking. Hey, it's been a few years. Maybe they were able to get it back on track. I gave it a shot. I watched it. If you've seen one VHS movie, you've pretty much seen them all as far as the format of you have your main story, kind of, sort of, right? A group of characters who wind up in a situation where they find VHS tapes and then they watch them. And so the whole movie is us watching them watching those VHSs. This time you have some military group or whatever, and they're going into this building, a possible drug raid, and they find these tapes. And the first tape, I have them listed in my notes as like the categories or the subject matters that they're about. The first one is Rat Man, we'll call it. This was terrible. This was quite possibly the worst one of this movie, mostly because the premise was stupid. You know, the actual threat or the idea of it. This is what I had issues with, especially with the sequels of VHS, where it's a great concept in general as far as having these different anthology-like stories, horror stories, and each one has a different director, so they bring their flair and flavor to it. But when you can go this far out there, I mean, it's literally a guy in the sewer who has the head of a rat, I guess, and there's this black goo, and I'm not even going to get into it. You're following a reporter and her cameraman. They're doing a story on this, and they wind up in the sewer, and so of course they come into contact with it, and it's just dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb, especially how it wraps up. The ending of that story is a big, what the fuck? What the hell was that? What am I supposed to get and gather from that story? I don't know. Next story, we'll call it The Wake, where you follow this girl who's working at a funeral home. She's supposed to be working the wake of this person. Nobody really shows up besides one guy. And it's a closed casket because apparently this guy died a horrible death. And you know what? Maybe I shouldn't give these away as far as what happens. This one is probably the most creepy because it was, or it at least started out as the most simple. A girl by herself in her funeral home. She's hearing weird noises. The power goes out. It's kind of dealing with the lights going out, and so she's looking around, and it's just her. I'm like, okay, fine. This I can get with this. The ending might have been a bit of a stretch, but all right, there you go. The thing with these stories is you also have to sit there and just go along with and not question the fact that why are these characters continuing to carry the camera during the most horrific situations. I mean, the military guys, at least I believe the cameras are just on them, right? Their equipment and whatnot. So okay, fine, that works. And then the first story, it followed a news reporter and her cameraman. So the cameraman's going to have the camera on him. Again, makes sense. The second one, they try to explain having cameras in the funeral home already set up, but she also had her own camera. And once shit hit the fan, she still was holding the camera. And that always ticks me out because who the hell is going to do something like that. The third one, probably the most interesting, not scary at all, but definitely interesting. I call it the mad scientist. You see this surgeon or whatever the hell he is, he's kind of gone mad. He has this idea that he can blend human flesh with machines, and he's kidnapping people, his patients, and he's sort of turning them into abominations, right? Like one is a guy's head on spider legs, like mechanical spider legs, but still. And then at first it's like, okay, this is creepy, kind of like the Human Centipede, where you're just seeing this guy mutilate these bodies, and you're like, all right, but where do we go from here? And where they go from there was definitely a direction I was not expecting. It takes a while for them to reveal, like, the main character's POV of what they are. But holy hell, it turned into a first-person shooter video game. But in a good way. Kind of like Hardcore Henry, but I think even better. I almost want to see that third story as its own movie. Or even a video game. Fuck it. Like, I would totally play a game where you have this character that gets turned into this part machine-like creature, has a gun for a hand, and goes around, and it's bizarre, it's crazy. The fourth and final story, besides the wrap-up story, is, I guess I'll call it the Extremists. You have this group of, I don't want to say they're white supremacists, so I don't really know. These guys were clearly on their own sort of Kool-Aid shit, and they're going around, and this one I lost interest in, to be honest. This was the first story that I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about what they were going around doing, storming into buildings and facilities. It wasn't until the ending where you saw these creatures. And I will say this, for the things that I don't or didn't care for with this movie, I will say that some of the practical effects, some of the creature designs, some of the horror images that we did get, even in this last story, I was impressed. I thought whatever this budget is, it's clearly low. I thought some of the effects, the creature effects, looked decent. And not just that, it is VHS. It is 1994. They also did a good job of making some of these tapes having like those tracking stuff, and especially in the beginning, more so in the beginning, where it made the footage that we're watching look like an old VHS tape. So I appreciated that. The end wrap-up story, the story that was sort of guiding you through all of them, was terrible. I mean, maybe this is the worst part, as far as they try to have a twist. They try to create this bigger, overarching plot and story that, who knows, they may try to continue. Couldn't care less. I'm not interested. This film, it's not as bad as maybe VHS Viral, but it's not something that I'm like, man, you guys gotta check this out. Maybe check out the third story, the Mad Scientist one, because that's just a cool concept, and it's gory and bloody, but it was pretty cool. Other than that, though, definitely this is something you can skip for sure. If you're into these VHS movies, if you're just dying for some new horror stuff that you can watch on something like Shudder, maybe I'll give it a Netflix and chill. But for me personally, I'm leaning more towards the some old bullshit. So guys, let me know in the comments below if you too have seen VHS 94. What did you think of it? Did you like it more than I did, or did you think it sucked? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!
Souls taken over by a devilish path. You got me walking on broken glass. Kicking down the door with a Jason mask, with a dead dumb machete, but you motherfuckers know it's heavy. Anytime you're ready, you can get you with a Bowie. Setting up to blow me, but the bitch don't know me. Who's going? I'm going. You